From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
That broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Thursday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. Couple guests for you today. Going to talk with Kendall Rogers of D1Baseball.com. Is one day away from the Oxford Regional, Ole Miss and Jacksonville State at 7. The Clemson Tigers and the Illinois Fighting Illini at 3 p.m. to kick off the regional tomorrow. So we'll break down most of the regional, or all of the regional, I guess I should say, with Kendall, and also have our weekly visit with Jeffrey Wright, get a bit of NBA, something he was dealing with the Grizzlies this week, as well as some baseball there as well. On the show, it's brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon and the Blue Sky. They're on Highway 6 West in Oxford. You know about the $4.99 lunch specials. You get 2 sides bread, 32-ounce drink Thursdays. That's chicken and dressing. You get the mobile rewards program, the Speed Pass Plus app. Plenty of ways to save money there with the Oxford Exxon. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number and ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. If you think you're in the market for a vehicle, you think you might soon be in the market for a vehicle, give Corey a call. At the very least, it's going to give you a baseline moving forward. And what it's probably going to do is plant a little seed inside your head that, sure enough, what you want is a Ford product because it's going to get the best deal. You're going to get great service after the sale, delivery options, all of those things. Corey wants to be your car guy. He wants to be your truck guy. If you don't know what that means, I understand. He'll prove it to you. Just make a phone call, 662-257-1900. Tell Corey at the end of your deal that you heard about Clark Ford on the podcast, and you'll save $500.
A soft verbal going up today, Neal. What's the topics for that one?
Oh, we broke down the 2023 NBA season in its entirety, game by game. We talked about some English Premier League soccer. No, we just talked football recruiting. We previewed the 10 greatest days of the year, the 10 days of camp. It's awesome.
Starts tomorrow.
It does.
Is that correct?
Starts tomorrow. It's very front-loaded. About half the guys, or more than half of the guys that they're evaluating and such, are coming in tomorrow. At least that's the plan. You know how camps work. And then there's a 7-on-7 tournament and a OLDL camp on Saturday. And then starting on Sunday, there's a handful of kids coming in. Monday and Tuesday are little kid camp days. And then Wednesday through next Sunday, they've got a few prospects each day that are coming in to work out or whatnot, be evaluated.
Okay. That will be up later today at rebelgrove.com, all the places that you listen to the podcast and whatnot. The only really news, there's really no official news. We'll have media day for baseball today. However, am hearing that Ole Miss is expected to start Will Etheridge tomorrow night against Jacksonville State. That's not a surprise for multiple reasons. But anyway, Etheridge against Garrett Farmer tomorrow. I'll have a little more on Farmer on the message board at rebelgrove.com. And then also hearing Tyler Keenan has progressed well from his shoulder ailment last week in the SEC Championship game against Vanderbilt. He came out of the game with what looked at the time to be potentially significant is he had a sling on, and he was not moving it around very much on Monday. However, hearing that he is taken well to rehab and treatment and whatnot, and that Keenan probably available this weekend for the Rebels. So those two things. Again, anything else from Media Day we'll have on tomorrow's podcast for that one. We did find out a little more about Illinois yesterday. Yesterday was kind of my focus for Illinois. Today I'm going to focus a little more on Jacksonville State, and we'll go from there. If Ole Miss does get the Illini on Saturday, they're going to see a left-hander throwing frisbees up there, best I can tell. Is a kid named Alex Fisher. He 84 to 86, 87, maybe bumping an 88, fastball slider, funky delivery, weird angles, and as I was told yesterday, really trying to deceive you more than even beat you with pitches. They're not an overly offensive club at all. Only a couple guys hitting over 300. They got one guy that has 10 home runs. I think it's the only guy with more than 5 home runs on the season. They've got the same guy with 20 stolen bases. I don't think anybody else has more than 11 stolen bases. Their catcher is very average. You can run on him. It is, on paper, one of the weaker 2 seeds I have seen, just being frank. But Ole Miss has to potentially, if it's Illinois tomorrow or on Saturday, beat their kryptonite a little bit. They've really struggled against lefty thumbers, and you're seeing the ultimate lefty thumber here for Illinois. Clemson will give you a more SEC left-handed look if you see that on Saturday. But anyway, as the 2 seed, I focus a little more on Illinois first, and that's certainly what they're going to throw out there.
Well, you know what I always say, because it's always true. In postseason, whatever your weakness is, it will either get you or you'll overcome it.
You'll see it at some point, won't you?
Just always seems to be that way. If you have a weakness, it pops up at that moment. And you either overcome it or it gets you.
In Illinois and Jacksonville State, Ole Miss facing a couple teams that, and Clemson a little less so, because Clemson, I mentioned this with Jeffrey later on, you'll hear it, they're kind of just a very average Power 5 team in the major conferences for baseball. I mean, they've got flaws. Yeah, they've got a couple players, but there's nothing that just startles you about them. With Illinois and Jacksonville State, it's very workmanlike. They just kind of keep at it. It's a lot of situational baseball. They're very comfortable in close, low-scoring games, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. They don't walk anybody. So, point being, Ole Miss has got to be aggressive offensively, and that is what is going to be so funny about this feast or famine weekend a little bit for the Rebels, because when you get aggressive, you got to swing. If you get by, I don't want to hear, you got to take pitches. You're just going to be behind in the count. Garrett Farmer's going to throw the ball in the strike zone. He's only walked 12 guys all year. You're going to be behind in the count if you take pitches. You can't be stupid, but you can't just watch fastballs go across the plate. So they're going to have to swing, which means they're going to have to square them up. You're not going to get a lot of help. So it's going to be up to Ole Miss to find that offense that manufactures its own runs. It's not going to be – I think Clemson probably of the 3 teams is be the one that would help you the most. I think with Jacksonville State, even as the 4th seed and as Illinois especially, for Ole Miss, it's all about doing it yourself and finding a way to drive the ball in the gap, to execute situationally. And frankly, it's up to Will Etheridge just to not let some very, very average – college offensive bats beat them. I mean, I think they need 7 innings out of Etheridge, and it needs to be pretty good.
Yeah, he does. He's their guy. He needs to go out and dominate an
OVC lineup.
Yeah, that's what he needs to do. Frankly, it needs to be a game that you go win 5-1, something like that. You handle business, and you don't really have to use your main bullpen arms. And you save them for Saturday. Frankly, you try to save them for Sunday. You hand the ball to Nikhazy on Saturday. And
I'd like 7 or 8, please.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thanks, Doug.
You know, like you said, you're either going to get one of the weakest 2s that I can remember in a long time, or you get a very flawed 3. And yeah, Clemson's a Power 5 3 is almost always flawed. Super flawed, usually.
Yeah, good program. Nothing against their program, but
no, their program's great. But this isn't a great team.
Yeah, when you're playing Florida this year as a 3 seed, you're not playing the Florida that had all those dudes on it. Brady Singer's not walking through that door tomorrow for the Gators.
They loaded up on fried food last night. They're gonna.
They were. Clemson was at Taylor last night, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, like buffet full of fried food. I'm not criticizing the food. I'd be sick for days at this point, but I was a little surprised at the choice, but they're young people. They'll get over it. But it's hot out there, loading up on fried food.
Well, it's 2 days before.
Yeah.
They didn't do it tonight.
I guess so.
It's 2 days before. They'll practice today at like noon or something like that. I don't know. I got the schedule.
I'm not a big hot dog person. I know a lot of people are. Did you see this?
I have these up. Yeah, I saw this.
From Ole Miss, the pigmento dog.
Is that the one you're eyeing?
I don't know that.
Is eyeing not the correct word?
I'm not a big hot dog person, especially when the hot dog's been boiled in the water. That's not my thing.
You like smoked sausages? Kielbasa? Brats?
I like it better. If I'm going to eat something like that, that's probably what I would prefer.
Okay.
But because the foot-long hot dog topped with jalapeno, pimento cheese, and bacon. Do anything for you?
Okay, so that's the Ole Miss version. They essentially gave a hot dog flavor, if you will, to each team in the regional. I think they did burgers for softball. I think we're doing hot dogs for baseball.
Oh, okay.
Best I can tell. I'm not a big pimento cheese person. I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily like it either. I don't eat. I'm weird. I don't eat chicken salad. I don't eat pimento cheese. I don't eat a lot of that. Don't hate it. Just not something I'm going to go grab. I do like jalapeno. It's jalapeno pimento cheese. It's not just jalapenos.
Right. Jalapenos are in the
yeah. But bacon makes everything better. So I might give that one a shot. The other ones probably are a little more appealing to me, even though I think I would need a defibrillator when I'm done. I can't talk today. Footlong hot dog. This is for Clemson. Served with diced fried chicken tender, bacon, cheddar cheese, and honey mustard. Feels like a lot.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot.
Yeah.
It's going to be like 98 degrees, too, tomorrow. The white barbecue for Jacksonville State. That is a foot-long hot dog topped with pulled pork, jalapenos, and barbecue sauce.
There's a lot of obesity out there. A lot of people that are carrying an extra 70.
You need everything in moderation, including moderation. No. That's the rule.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not criticizing. It's a great marketing idea.
And then Illinois, they're getting the Chicago-style hot dog, which is relish, tomato, pickle, pepper on a poppy seed bun.
I mean, if you told me I had to go with one, that's the one I'd go with.
Without tomato, because I don't really want to break out in hives.
Right.
But, yeah, that'd be
the one I would go with.
Or you can just get a regular hot dog if you'd like, I'm sure.
Yeah, you could. And just put mustard on it, like they do in the picture.
Yeah. That's kind of the irony there is they give you all these real dramatic hot dog flavors, and then the picture just has one with the little swirly mustard on it.
Just go with the basic.
Need relish, too, but...
Yeah, I like dill relish on a hot dog sometimes. I like the little diced onions on a hot dog sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big hot dog person. Like, that's never my thing. I never hey, you know what I want a hot dog.
Like the cookout, you're always grabbing the hamburger, not the hot dog.
Yeah.
If there's multiple options.
Yeah. Very rarely am I picking the hot dog.
It needs to be grilled. I feel like that's the rule. That's the thing we're skating around here. It's the fact that they're boiled.
If I'm going to eat a hot dog, I'm going to grill said hot dog. As a rule. I realize that would be difficult to do at a baseball stadium.
Yeah, you do not have that luxury.
I mean, I guess you would, but it'd be a lot of work to it.
So you can get those at Swayze tomorrow. Again, game times 3 and 7, 12 and 6, Sunday 2 and 8, and then Monday at 6 are the game times for this one. So
2 and 8.
2 and 8. Yeah, 2 and 8. That is correct. All tickets have been sold out, standing room only available. I know they sold out pretty much within hours yesterday. I talked to somebody last night who said they're all gone. So it was always going to be a good crowd. Like I had a lot of people ask me, "Hey, what do you think the crowd's going to be?" It's going to be great. Everybody's going to buy tickets. Like you can tell right now, they're hosting a regional, and everybody's kind of just all the angst has calmed down for a few days. I mean, might come back later, but as of right now, it's down. It's all good. Everybody go to the party, have a good time.
Oh,
cool.
think there's going to be angst?
Well, I mean, I'm saying if things do not go well, there will be angst. Yes.
Really, the weather is perfect.
There's like one little bitty rain chance today, and after that, nothing until next Thursday or something.
Sunny and a high of 85 and a low of 61. That's actually pleasant.
That's nice. When's that? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Really?
Yep.
I might change my schedule a little bit. Okay.
Might change my schedule if I can get away from camp early enough to pour one and sit by the pool. We'll see. Saturday, high of 88 and sunny, but a low of 66.
Still not terrible. That's okay.
Pleasant. Sunday, partly cloudy and a high of 90.
Okay.
Low of 66. Monday, cloudy, but no rain and 10% chance of rain that night, which is nothing.
And it's always good to stay on schedule when you're the 1 seed. You want to stay on schedule.
What time would the Monday game be?
It is 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Yes, Monday is at 6.
That's where the angst would kick in.
The Monday at 6.
The Monday angst.
be a really long how many ever hours from 11:15 on Sunday night to 6 p.m. on Monday.
Yeah.
Assuming that Ole Miss was the winner's bracket winner, obviously.
Yeah. There'd be some real angst.
You think so?
Yes. Yeah. Monday's a different deal in the stadium. People have to, because a lot of the people that come up for the weekend have to go home.
I guess Mike's going to throw Hoagland in Game 3, but I am a little fascinated by it. I do think Phillips has made at least an argument to give Mike a decision based on matchups.
He'll go with Hoagland in Game 3.
Think
Phillips would throw the angst game.
The angst game?
Yeah.
Well, there's two things. Really, there's two things of reasons why that makes a lot of sense. Is A, Gunner being a freshman, you don't want to screw with his routine too much. You don't want to make him think something's wrong. And then two, being a freshman and not having the mentality, honestly, of Nikhazy, I don't necessarily want him on that Monday game. I think he might think too much for that. I don't want a dude out there thinking.
I'd go with Roth before I went with Hoagland in an angst game.
Roth's been good lately.
I know. That's why I said it.
Been really good.
That's why I said it. He was really good the other day.
It's almost like he just had to get healthy.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's almost like he separated a shoulder and it takes 6 weeks for one of those to heal.
That was the first word coming out of the diagnosis back in early February, it appeared.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. But yes, he's been
a lot of people tried to kind of, for whatever reason, talk through that, but it is what it is.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Monday would be weird. I ain't won a regional since 14 at home. It's been a minute.
Yeah, no, Monday, if it gets to Monday, is weird. The crowd's different because it's different. A lot of people have to leave. The people who come up for the party all weekend, they're back at work on Monday. And so it's the diehard, nothing but the diehard kind of fan out there on Monday, and their nerves are rattled by Monday night. If you're Ole Miss, you want to win the damn thing on Sunday.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you're the one and you're the host, step on them. Step on them and be done with it.
Look,
make it an uncomfortable environment in an environment where you're whatever, instead of an environment where they start having fun too.
When the NCAA gives you a gift,
take it.
You unwrap the gift and you say, "Oh, thank you. This is just what I wanted." You don't make it complicated. You don't ruin the gift by going, "Did you get me the right size?" You just take the damn gift. If you got to take it back later and exchange it, you do it, but you don't let the people know it. The NCAA gave Ole Miss a gift.
You got a gift.
Absolutely got a gift. Take it.
Beat a couple average baseball teams.
A lot of people, self-included, have said the NCAA picks on Ole Miss. Well, the NCAA did not pick on you here. The NCAA handed you a very big, beautifully wrapped present.
From a seeding standpoint, Ole Miss softball and baseball have been given gifts in the last month.
Yeah, they had every reason in the world not to give a softball regional.
Well, even so, they were the 11 seed. They got moved up.
And
now you got a ridiculous 2, but point still stands.
Yeah. But getting to the College World Series is hard. Next weekend, if Ole Miss gets to next weekend, assuming it's Arkansas, will be difficult. But it's not impossible, and Ole Miss knows it.
They've done it this year.
Yeah, and they've won 2 out of 3 this year.
In Fayetteville.
And split with them on a neutral site.
Yeah.
Both teams go into that series. If that series happens, both of those coaches go into that series knowing full well we could win and we could lose.
They'll have their guys' attention and they'll look at them and go, you better play well. You've seen it.
And
you know
everybody will know it.
Yeah.
There won't be a whole hell of a lot to say. I can almost predict the press conferences.
Well, we know those guys pretty well.
And we have a lot of respect for them. We know how good they are. We know they can beat us. They've done it. And we know we can beat them because we've done it. We know we have to play really well to do it. We have a lot of respect for their program. It's a fun place to play. It's a great facility. We know how close they were to winning a title last year. I'm sure that's really motivated them. We were motivated. We want to get back to Omaha, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing to say. But if you're Ole Miss, that's a gift. You got handed a gift. You got handed a regional you should absolutely win, and you are matched up with a program that's very good, that's perfectly capable of winning a national title, frankly, but that you're capable of beating. There's no unknown. There's no, oh, boy, God, we got to go out to, I don't know, you tell me who's some big power. We got to go out to so-and-so. We've never been out there before. We don't really know what they're like. We know they're really, really good. We just don't know. There's no unknown with Arkansas.
Yeah, this is not a trip to Los Angeles.
No, you know precisely what Arkansas is. You're going to go to Fayetteville.
Stay in the same hotel you probably stayed in before.
Probably eat at the same place. You know everything about it. You've seen the picture that you're going to see on Friday. You've seen the picture you're going to see on Saturday. And you've seen the picture you're going to see on Sunday. And you've seen everybody out of their bullpen, and you've seen everybody in their freaking lineup. You know everything about them. You know what their uniforms look like. You know what their cheers are. You know the whole deal. You know you can beat them, and you know they can beat you. You've seen it happen. Not a hell of a lot to it. And if for Ole Miss, a team that limped in a little bit before the SEC tournament, that got swept by Mississippi State and then lost to Arkansas State and then lost 2 in a row to Tennessee, holy hell, man, this spot, it's a gift. Take advantage of it. Get to Fayetteville and see what the hell happens.
I don't want to use the word angst anymore because we used that for another topic a second ago, but seriously here, punching bag because of a lot of reasons, Mike deserves a lot of credit because that team was dead in the water. They get swept by State. They lost 2 to Tennessee, and on that Saturday, or that Friday, after that loss to Tennessee, they got hammered on Thursday. It was 7-0, and then lose where they give up the lead late, and Tennessee added on, and it looked lifeless for the Rebels at that point. And he kind of told his guys, hey, y'all can't play this way. You can't play with the world on your shoulders. Chill out. Just play. You're my guys. I love you. We're going to do this thing one way or the other, and it's going to be okay. Just play. And whatever it is that he said that found tough love, but in a more positive frame that day, it resonated. They won the next day. They kind of gritted it out. They go to Hoover, and frankly, the coaches, the players, everybody's just been in a little better mindset over the last week. You can see it. It's tangible.
Yeah, no, literally, people had banana sock puppets.
Yeah. I mean this sincerely.
He
he sincerely resonated with his team over the last 2 weeks.
I mean this really, and I love baseball, so when I say this, I'm not making fun of the game. It might be my favorite game. It's a crazy, stupid game. It's a game of luck and chance. I mean, I watched the Cubs the other night. Kyle Schwarber hits a ball 108 miles an hour for an out. Houston gets a run later on a 60-something mile an hour blooper. That's chance. It's luck. You can't play the game with, oh, God, this is the whole world rest on. No, it doesn't. The sun's going to come up Tuesday one way or the other. The world's going to keep spinning. You can't play like that.
Yeah.
You just go play the damn series, and they're the better team. They ought to win. And if they'll play the way they're supposed to play, they'll win.
Fans on your way into Swayze Field Friday, probably going to go check out G&M Pharmacy. You can pick up some CBD oil for that one as you're wearing all-natural product. Helps maintain overall health and regulate many conditions such as depression, anxiety, insomnia, and more. Studies show 42% of CBD users stopped using traditional medication and used cannabis instead. No crazy side effects. Just makes you feel a little bit better. You can also transfer your medications while you're in there or when you give them a call at 662-236-2222.
The podcast is also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi, represents clients in more than 20 states, has advisors in 3 states. What Pinnacle Trust does is they provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. They treat investing like a commodity, and they make decisions using objective information and research, not emotions. What they do is they sit down with you, they listen to your goals, they study your expenses, and they put forth a comprehensive, and I do mean very comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan that's built just for you. Pintrust.com, P-I-N-N Trust.com. Mention that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast, and you'll get 10% off your first year's fee. Podcast also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. They're the sponsor of my mailbag, which was up yesterday, 4 o'clock-ish. It's up on rebelgrove.com, which is part of the Rivals Network. you should subscribe. And then you should stay at the Westin Jackson when you're passing through Jackson, either on business or for pleasure. Visit Soul Spa. It's the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. And check out Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro. It's fantastic. You can sip on a creative craft cocktail, enjoy their curated wine list, or enjoy breakfast, lunch, dinner, and or Sunday brunch from Chef Caden. That's at Estelle, which is part of the Westin Jackson. Podcast also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you're working a summer trip, it's not too late. Whether you're headed to maybe Napa, or you're headed to the Bahamas, or you're headed points in between Europe for golf, whatever the case may be, don't book it all by yourself without at least calling John and letting John give you some options. You give him a call, you give him some parameters, you give him a budget. He will give you options that you won't get on your own because you're probably not part of Virtuoso, and he is. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Now let's go to Kendall Rogers on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Kendall, good to talk to you. I guess I saw you in Hoover last week, but NCAA regionals. I guess first up, where are you headed this weekend? Not much Texas action like usual. Only one host over there. So where are you headed?
Yeah, I'm headed over to Baton Rouge, and thankfully, when you look at this field with Arizona State and Southern Miss, and of course Stony Brook, as Cajun is, absolutely love the Seawolves for obvious reasons. That ought to be an awesome regional. I think you look at Arizona State with Hunter Bishop, Spencer Torkelson probably the top prospect in the sophomore draft class, and then you look at Southern Miss and Matt Wallner. Those guys are starting to play really well also. So I think LSU's on a little bit of an upset watch this weekend in Baton Rouge. I'm heading over there, and it looks like no rain in the forecast. I will take it.
Yeah, Southeast in pretty good shape from a weather standpoint. So Ole Miss, Illinois, Clemson, Jacksonville State. What were sort of your first impressions on Monday when you saw that bracket?
I thought it was a very winnable bracket for Ole Miss. Of course, we thought that in the past, but I think you look at these teams overall. Clemson, for me, is a club that has been very inconsistent throughout the year. I guess if there's one thing about them, you never really know what to expect. So I guess that's on one hand, that's a good thing, and on the other, it can be scary because they do have talent with Logan Davidson, Grayson Bird is having a really nice year. And the one thing that's interesting to me, Chase, is the fact that they're pitching backwards this weekend, which I think is incredibly risky going against Illinois, who's a solid club. They're holding Matt Clark, I think, for a potential matchup with Ole Miss. And, it looks like Monty Lee kind of said, hey, we're trying to win the regional. We're not trying to win one game. So it's a risky proposition, but if it pays off, it could work for those guys. So, Clemson, for me, scary because you don't know what to expect. But, I would be a little surprised they won this regional. Historically, they have not played well in regionals. Illinois, for me, Dan Hartleb, those guys have been kind of in and out of our top 25 all year long. Ty Weber's really had a nice year on the mound for those guys. Cirillo Watson's a big-time arm for them. I know his numbers aren't overwhelming, but he's certainly a big-time arm that can go low to mid-90s. Then you look on the back end of their bullpen with Garrett Acton. He'll be one of the premium arms in that regional. He can get up to 96, 97 with his fastball. And then, offensively, Michael Massey and Zach Taylor are kind of the two guys that make them go. Taylor's an electric player for them. And, you look at Massey, just a very stable presence in that lineup, and certainly a stable presence in the middle of the infield. And, lastly, Jacksonville State for me, Jim Case and those guys have done a really nice job. Nick Gaddis is having a big-time year offensively for the Gamecocks. And, Alex Webb has also done a nice job this year with 9 home runs. And I think it's a team high 56 RBIs. So what it tells me is that these three teams, including Ole Miss, all four of these teams hit a little bit, and all four of these teams at times can have some question marks on the mound.
Yeah, you mentioned Clemson holding, but I guess Illinois technically kind of is too, with Ty Weber going tomorrow against the Tigers. That leaves Fisher against Ole Miss on Saturday if it's a winner's bracket game, if those two are matched up. And it's something Ole Miss, over the years, they've kind of struggled with the lefty thumbers, the guy throwing frisbees up there, and that looks like what Fisher kind of is. I was kind of looking at him a little bit. It's 84, 86, 87, and Ole Miss is going to have to kind of do their own damage against him a little bit.
They are, and I think, I thought last week was a turning point for them, and of course, Ole Miss fans will probably go, yeah, right, like we've been through this before. But I do. Like, I felt like this team in the last week showed me something that was a lot different than what I saw, before that. You look at the offensive approach for the most part. Even in the games they lost in Hoover, I thought the offensive approach was good. They got some big innings on the mound. And so I actually kind of feel like Ole Miss is in a good spot here. And I actually feel like what happened last year is kind of a learning experience for those guys.
What's kind of your thoughts on, obviously you saw him at his best this season, but Doug Nikhazy going to get into a big role either way, obviously probably a win on Saturday for Ole Miss in a winner's bracket game at least. What did Nikhazy show you in Hoover last week?
I'm a huge fan of that guy. I always look at, I'm one of those people when I talk to scouts or scouting directors or whatnot, I always lead with like, hey, if I was in a bar fight with somebody, like who do I want on my side? And Doug Nikhazy is one of those guys. I think if you look at his attitude, he's a hard-nosed guy. He comes right at you. He'll give up a double, and it's like nothing happens. It's like there's nobody on base. And I just love his presence out there on the mound. And so, you look at his curveball, his breaking ball. He's not going to blow you away with his fastball, but he'll sit in the low 90s, and he's a really good pitcher. And boy, he's going to have a fun career there because if he's this advanced from a mental standpoint and just a maturity standpoint now, imagine how good this guy's going to be as a junior. So I'm all in on Doug Nikhazy, that's for sure. And honestly, Gunnar Hoagland, showed me something too over the weekend at the SEC tournament. So things starting to really kind of come together for an Ole Miss staff that, frankly, was a little bit of a mess going into Hoover, of course, including the bullpen.
Clemson and Illinois, if either one of them gets in the loser's bracket, is there one better suited for a little bit of a run-through from a pitching depth standpoint, or both of those they need kind of stay clean on the weekend?
They need to stay clean, but I think I feel better about Illinois. Illinois has a few more options. Clemson, if you look at kind of what they've done all year long, they really just do not have a frontline arm. Davis Sharp, a freshman for them earlier in the year, was providing good innings for them. And then, you look at Matt Clark. He's done a nice job. There's even some, stinkers that he's had on the mound, too. So, for me, Clemson really cannot afford to be in a loser's bracket. I think Illinois maybe a little bit more. But, I feel pretty good where Ole Miss matches up here regardless of who they play.
With Jacksonville State throwing Garrett Farmer on Friday night, looks like he's got some little pitchability. You got anything on him whatsoever? I know it's OVC, obviously.
Yeah, pitchability is kind of the name of the game with him, as is the case with most of those OVC guys. But, when you look back at Tennessee Tech last year, that could serve as kind of a nice litmus test for Ole Miss coming into this game against Jacksonville State. It's probably a very similar approach. Probably not a guy that's going to, blow you away from a velo standpoint, but it's going to be a guy that's going to be able to work the zone, go side to side with his fastball and things like that. So, they played plenty of midweek games this year, and it probably won't be any different than what they've seen in those games. I guess the only scary thing is they've lost some of those midweek games, but, all those were not offensive, because of the offense. So we'll see what happens. I just think, if you're Ole Miss, like, hey, just relax. Like, hey, yeah, people are going to talk about, oh, yeah, you lost a regional last year, but just relax. You're playing a really good brand of baseball right now, and just kind of let the chips fall where they may.
Can Cal or TCU beat Arkansas, or is that a bit of a cakewalk for the Razorbacks in Fayetteville?
I was just on another show, and Cal, keep it on Cal. I look back at Arkansas, and, I've got them playing Vandy for the national championship, so I guess I'm a little contradicting myself, saying they're on upset watch. But I will say this. I do think you look back at the A&M series for Arkansas, and A&M, for the most part, was able to tame Arkansas that weekend. And, they struggled a little bit offensively in Hoover, so you kind of wonder a little bit if Rob Childress, the head coach and pitching coach for A&M, might have kind of shown teams that, kind of the way you attack those guys from an offensive standpoint. So I'm interested to see how Arkansas starts the weekend offensively. But I look at Cal. They're really dangerous. You look at Andrew Vaughn at the plate. Darren Baker's a really nice player. Corey Lee behind the plate for Cal has turned into one of the rising prospects and players in college baseball. Then you look at the pitching. It's most certainly good enough. Now they're going to need a good start, out of Jared Horn against TCU. But otherwise, they've got the arms to compete with Arkansas. So I still like the Hogs, but yeah, you're right. I think Cal could be a little interesting. TCU for me is just a little light on the mound.
Do we know if Cal or TCU's holding starters or anything?
No, Cal and TCU are starting their two number ones. I believe Jared Horn is going for Cal. I had heard rumors that Nick Lodolo is going for TCU. But there's also rumors that they're going to hold him. I don't know about you, but if I'm Jim Schlossnagle, I'm not doing that. So we'll see if the Frogs end up doing that. I would not recommend it.
What's Arkansas doing? What are they doing with Campbell?
It sounds like they're gonna pitch backwards. It sounds like they're gonna pitch. I think Connor Nolan in the opener, which Nolan is certainly of the two freshmen, Wicklander and Nolan. Nolan has certainly been the more consistent young guy for Arkansas. And that's the other thing for me, Chase. When I look at the Hogs going into the tournament, is I love Isaiah Campbell, but man, I'm always worried about freshmen in this platform, the stage, in this big of a moment, because you just never know what you're going to get. And that's why I go back into Casey and go back to the way he's pitched all year long in big situations. And that's a guy who just doesn't care. Wicklander and Nolan have been guys that look like they care at times in big situations. So that is something I'm definitely circling this week and to kind of keep an eye on. How do those freshmen do? Because that is one thing about Arkansas. If you can get those starters out early, other than Cole Ramage, they really do not have a long relief option.
It's funny how the freshmen have worked like that. You've got Nikhazy and Ginn and Kumar Rocker to a point. And on the other side, guys that are having to kind of work with that transition with Hoagland and, I guess, Marceau and people you mentioned. It changes the complete game for freshmen depending on how they handle it mentally.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I think you look at Kumar Rocker, for instance, his maturation process throughout the season. I saw him earlier this year against A&M on the road, and he looked good, not great, but boy, he has just turned into a grown man. And so it's been interesting to watch some of these young freshmen. JT Ginn actually over the weekend in Hoover, that was the first time I really seen Ginn kind of fall apart. In that first inning, I think he struck out 2, and I'm like, he made it look really easy. And then after that, he kind of fell apart. So if guys like JT Ginn can do that, anybody can do that in the postseason. So the presence of freshmen, whether it's in the lineup or whether it's in the rotation, certainly is kind of a caveat in all these regionals.
I know the public's on A&M pretty heavy. How are you kind of handicapping that Morgantown regional?
Well, I mean, if they could hit it all, I would be on them. But boy, this is a team that went 15 2/3 innings in Hoover of no-hit baseball, and they lost 2 games. I mean, I don't know how you picked that, but that's just me. I don't know. A&M for me is a weird team. I mean, they can really pitch. I mean, they might have the best one-two punch in the country, but if they're going to win this regional, and I do think West Virginia is vulnerable. I do think Duke is vulnerable in that regional, but if they're going to win it, they're going to have to find a way to manufacture runs. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, they just need to go Augie Rito style. Like, hey, if you get a runner on base with no outs, just bunt the dude over and take your chances. I mean, that's just how bad offensively they are. But the really interesting thing about this regional as a whole, Chase, is, all 4 teams in this regional are above 100 at fielding percentage, and they're above 100 offensively. That tells me that is a very wide-open regional.
So I guess last thing, is it going to be Ole Miss and Arkansas on the Hill next weekend?
It will be. I'm a believer in Ole Miss. I think you look at this team overall, I think they showed a lot about their maturity and kind of where they are mentally last week. This is a team that headed into Hoover, they had to win games. And that's as much pressure as they've had all year long, and they took care of business. So, I look at the job that, Greg Kessinger did over the past week. He's a guy that's just skyrocketing up draft boards right now for good reason. What a great player that guy is. And, things are in a good spot offensively. And I think, a turning point for me when I look back at Hoover is you look at the situation when Parker Crazy came in against A&M, he gives up that hit. The fact that he kind of settled down, got back on the mound, got back in a groove, and got out of that could be a moment that I kind of circle as maybe the turning point of their season. Because I think after that, I think they started to believe in themselves and started to believe in the bullpen a little bit. So that may be the turning point for me when I look at Ole Miss this season.
Do you like these interconference super regionals if it goes scratch?
I'm okay with it. I don't really have a preference. I prefer not to have all these conferences matched up. But at the end of the day, these super regionals are going to be awesome. They're going to be great for ratings. So I'm not necessarily gung-ho about it, but I'm not necessarily totally against it. So we'll see.
All right. Appreciate it, bud. Let's do it again next week.
You got it, buddy. We'll see you.
Thanks to Kendall for this time that I'm sure is a very, very busy week for him leading into regionals tomorrow, and we'll go back to the phones in a second to talk to Jeffrey for the OT by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis, so you're getting local underwriting that understands your market, a leader in condo financing in Oxford, and the float down option, which allows you to lock in the current rates. But if rates go down before you close, you just get the lower rate. 662-234-2704 or JLOWE@communitymtg.com.
Podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Go in, test drive one today. Tell Gene and Sandy and the people at Grenada Nissan that you heard about Grenada Nissan on this podcast, rebelgrove.com, and you'll get Rebel savings on top of the already great deals at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. And we're brought to you by Harry Alexander. He's an Oxford-based RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent. He's a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square. Conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone detached structures ranging in size from about 1,100 square feet to 2,400 square feet. The model home is open for you to check out at 215 William Street. These homes have wonderful layouts, impeccable finishes. You can see all of that at the model. So get in touch with Harry. Take a look at SavannahSquareOxford.com while units are still available, I should say. And then get in touch with Harry by call or text 662-801-5621. And the podcast brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB offers you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. They also offer their customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa. And with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. And they offer a commercial checking account that's now paying 1% interest as long as you keep $10,000 in the account. It comes with fully interactive online banking. To learn more, go to Live Oxford, bankoxford.com, or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
Now here's Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey, good morning. Obviously, you and I spent a good bit of time together over the weekend, but haven't talked a ton of baseball. Ole Miss gets the regional host spot on Sunday night. Brackets announced on Monday, and just coming through group text, I'm assuming that, like a lot of us, you just think that's probably the best draw they could have gotten, and they're in pretty good shape heading into tomorrow.
Yeah, I believe – I can't remember if you said this in group chat or if you maybe said it on Twitter or something, but they don't have a team ranked inside the top 25 of the RPI. So, you know, if you're the 12th seed overall and that's your draw, you got to be pretty happy with it. I know some people say, well, you know, both if you beat your 4 seed, both teams have saved their ace, but I mean, you know, at a certain point there's going to be 4 teams in there, and probably usually 3 of the 4 teams, including yourself, if you're hosting, it'd be a good baseball team. So to me, I don't really know how you could have hoped for more. And then the other flip side of it is the team that you're matched up with in Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a really good baseball team, but it's a team that you match up well with, because I think Ole Miss is probably their biggest weakness from what I've seen this year is defensively. I just feel like in the outfield, a lot of balls that should be caught end up not getting caught. And then on the infield, they have a tendency to lose some focus. But Arkansas is a team that I kind of think has similar problems. And if you're going to play Arkansas, you'd like to play them in a year where they don't feel like that their bullpen depth is as strong as they're used to seeing. So, man, if you're Ole Miss and you only go 16-14 in the SEC, I don't know how you could have asked for a whole lot more.
Well, and Illinois is in a conference that's bad. The Big Ten's down even from what it normally is. And Clemson, look, when you're a Power 5 team, or at least an ACC or an SEC team, and you're a 3 seed, that means you're a really flawed baseball team. You've got some issues, and sure, you're going to have a pitcher, you're going to have a bat or two, but it's not going to be anything like a host Power 5 team out of those conferences. I mean, you look at Ole Miss when they've been a 3 in years past. That's like 2012 when they had 2 arms Or you look at 2008 when that team was just a head case that went to Coral Gables. Three seeds that are in those conferences are complete and utter head cases most of the time and have flaws.
Florida got a 3 seed, right?
Yeah, they're a little different, but yeah, same sort of principle, I guess.
But to me, it's the same idea. Like, yes, Florida has talent, and there might be some chemistry issues or some other problems, but like Florida's a flawed baseball team, and it's not like that's an untalented baseball team. So I think you're spot on. If you're a 3 seed if you're a 3 seed out of the ACC, you're probably a pretty flawed baseball team.
Yeah. You mentioned a second ago. Obviously, you talk a lot every single day. Have you got a little backlash lately, Jeffrey?
Okay, so yesterday, and I want y'all's opinion on this because all of us follow professional sports. Neil, I know, has covered professional sports. Chase, I don't think you have. I think you've covered some drafts and stuff, but I don't think. But I'm just curious about this. So yesterday, the conversation stemmed around the way perhaps Mike Conley is feeling when he watches Marc Gasol go to the NBA Finals. I think it's safe to say that he is very happy for his friend. I also have to think that Mike Conley, because he's a human being, might sit there and grit his teeth and go, man, I wish that were me.
Of course.
And to me, that seems perfectly reasonable. That's not that in no way, shape, form, or fashion suggests that Mike Conley's jealous of his buddy. But I can see where, if you want to get traded.
I can tell you this. I'll interrupt you for a minute. I've talked to some people around the NBA with some other organizations who have used the word miserable and unhappy as it pertains to Mike Conley in Memphis. He wants out. He's being a good soldier right now, but Mike Conley, behind the scenes, has let people know that he wants out of Memphis.
And I saw how when he was on the trading block and he ends up not getting traded, I saw how that ordeal affected him. And he, this is a guy that had sleepless nights, and you could see, when you see someone who's just like physically and emotionally spent, that was very much what I saw from him. And so we were going back on our afternoon show with some things that Mike had tweeted. And Mike Conley is not Kevin Durant on Twitter. He has about 7 or 8 tweets that, for the most part, like he was retweeting when Greg Oden, his former college buddy, his buddy from growing up, when he graduated college, he tweeted something. But one of the ones that was included was after the Grizzlies on their exit interview day, which is a standard procedure in virtually every professional sport that I follow.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if after the end of the day, in NFL Black Monday, everyone knows the deal. The players have to go out and face the music after their coaches have been fired, and it's just part of it. It's professional sports. That is the way that it works. The Grizzlies, primarily because the new regime did not want to have to face a Q&A and didn't want to have to deal with that. They chose to send JB Bickerstaff out and Chris Wallace out. 2 people that they had already made the decision internally they were going to relieve of their duties. And then around 3 o'clock, Adrian Wojnarowski, who is now essentially the mouthpiece for the Grizzlies, he drops that both have been fired and so on and so forth. So I made the comment yesterday when we were discussing Mike Conley's tweet about that situation, which he just said no words. I made the comment that I don't think the Memphis Grizzlies understand how unprofessional that was. And I mean that because, in my opinion, that is remarkably unprofessional, and that's something that you don't see in professional sports. So I took heat for that from a certain segment of people, not listeners, but you can figure out who I took some heat from that.
People inside the organization were upset at that?
Yeah. So I have to ask you this. Was I off base?
No, you're absolutely right. It was what it was not only unprofessional, it sort of violates the code, the unwritten code of how this thing works. If you're going to fire your coach, you fire your coach right after the game. The news leaks that night or early the next morning, and you're right. It's something that the organization addresses to the media the next day, and they do it, and everyone does those exit interviews. I think what's happened in Memphis is there's so much friendly media. There's so much media that is fans. Not all, but a lot. I think you would agree that it has clouded the way that the organization views media as a whole. The people that are just objective are – it's very similar to what's happened on this beat back in time. If you're objective, if everybody else is a fan, you're viewed as a hater. And they're very defensive. And for them to push back on that shows just how thin-skinned the organization is.
Yeah, and then this is what really pissed me off. They hid behind this explanation that they were protecting their players.
They're professional players. I'm so sick of this crap I'm sick of it with college players. But with professional players, it's ridiculous. These guys are making, at minimum, $1 million a year. Most of them are making far above $1 million a year. They don't need to be protected from having to answer questions about what happened to coaches.
Yes. The professional athletes. That's part of the gig.
I mean.
And it's incredibly indecent to, whatever the deal with Wallace is. I think Wallace was largely a figurehead. He was essentially a spokesman. It's no different. To me, lashing out at Chris Wallace oftentimes is like lashing out at whoever the White House spokesman is, regardless of who the president is, if you do or don't like him. But that's just someone that's basically going and speaking to the media and trying to justify decisions that person did not make, if we're being real.
Agreed.
But he had become a symbol, and that's, with an unhappy fan base. And I completely understand it. I'm not saying that I think Chris Wallace was unfairly fired. I think he unfairly had the job to begin with. So that's another story. But to do what they did to J.B. Bickerstaff, where he believed that he held a team meeting, he was already putting together plans for the next season because he was under the impression that he's coming back. And then all of a sudden, right after he goes and does basically, an hour and a half of media obligations, he finds out, oh, yeah, by the way, you're no longer needed here. Like, that's not how you deal with that situation.
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. But you're basically the only person that's pushed back on that.
I don't know. Like, to me, like, I just think, I don't know. Maybe this makes, I don't know if call me the morality police, and I don't really view myself as that. Like, I just think there's a professional way and an unprofessional way to deal with people. And to me, my deal is they pick and choose their explanations, and none of which make sense. So, for instance, in that case, they say they're protecting their players, yet they leaked Adrian Wojnarowski that Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, who at that time were their players, they leaked that they're on the trading block almost 2 weeks before the trade deadline. They didn't seem to give a whole hell of a lot of a damn what their players were having to go through and what their players would have to answer in that situation.
No, I agree, and I think they thought that they clearly knew they were going to trade Gasol, and I think they thought they were going to trade Conley. I think they were surprised when the market wasn't more bullish on Mike Conley. It's kind of still where they are today as they get ready for the draft with the second pick of the draft.
Understandably, it's a different decision-making core, but the crux of the argument was they didn't get the offers that they wanted. And my question now becomes, what happens this summer when you're largely going to get the same type of deal in which you're probably going to get a protected first-round pick and a young player that would probably be the equivalent of a late lottery player, maybe a year removed from the draft, maybe 2. You're going to get that type of deal. What happens when that's the deal that you get this summer? Are you going to go into the season with Mike Conley thinking that, well, we didn't get the deal we wanted now. We'll use Mike Conley to mentor Ja Morant, presumably, and then at the deadline, people will get desperate and will get better deals. I mean, this would now be about basically the third iteration in which you've had Mike Conley on the trading block, and you're not going to get the deal that you want.
If you're drafting Ja Morant, you trade Mike Conley. Period. Ja Morant's your point guard the moment he steps in onto the practice court. You start the new era. You don't start him as a bench guy playing backup point guard minutes.
You have DeLon Wright. You have DeLon Wright on the roster, and while obviously you and I know DeLon Wright's not an NBA starter at the point guard, if you need him to be a stopgap to help you bring along your rookie point guard, he's completely serviceable in that role.
Let's take a break in our talk with Jeffrey to talk about Master Cuts Lawn and Landscape. You know they provide premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi, but offer a lot more as well. Master Cuts will build your custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, outdoor living spaces, paver patios, forestry mulching, and more. The path to your dream backyard easier than you think. You can visit them online at gomastercuts.com for a free quote, or you get that same free quote by calling them at 662-607-7773. Again, that's gomastercuts.com.
The Blue Delta Jeans folks will be in Tampa today. The Tampa Alumni Charter was getting some information together to pass around. They're going to be check out Blue Delta on Instagram, on Twitter. You can see all of the different places they're going to be. They'll be in Tampa today, and then they'll be in Oxford this weekend. The store is open today, tomorrow, and Saturday from 10 to 6. You can drop in, get fitted for your pair of Blue Delta jeans. You can also slide into their DMs, send them an email, info@bluedeltajeans.com, and you can schedule a fitting. The store will be closed on Sunday, but if that's the only day that you have time to go get a fitting, you can do that. Send them an email, info@bluedeltajeans.com. You can schedule a fitting with the fine people at Blue Delta Jeans. You will love the product that you get, I can assure you. By the way, I'm trying to pull this up. There it is. In Tampa tonight, it is at 7 to 9 Eastern Time, Hyde Park Village at 800 South Village Circle tonight in Tampa.
Now back to Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, you're not competing for a playoff bid next year. That's not in the cards, not in the West. Hell, it's not in the cards in the East. It's just not in the cards. So you need a backup point guard who can play 14 minutes a night. Ja Morant has to have the Trae Young experience, where you go out, the Colin Sexton experience. You go out, you do some things well, you do some things awfully. You have some big nights. You have some nights where an NBA veteran point guard abuses you. You learn, you get better, and it's all part of the process. I mean, that's a position in the NBA that's just loaded with great players. The only time that Ja Morant and Mike Conley need to be on the court at the same time is when they're playing each other.
Yes, I completely agree. It boils down to, yes, a rookie point guard is probably going to turn the ball over a lot. I mean, Trae Young, even despite playing well for the last 45 games of the year, he's averaged every night 4 turnovers.
He got better as the season went along, and it'll be the same thing with Morant. If you're keeping Mike Conley, you either need to trade down, which, God, I can't imagine the fan reaction to that, or you need to take R.J. Barrett.
Yes. And I personally, at the end of the day, I would take Ja Morant, and not because of fit, but I guess maybe in the end it is because of fit. It's really not fit for me. What it boils down to is I really do believe in Jaren Jackson. I think that guy, I don't know if he's a number one alpha dog in the NBA. I don't know that he's not either, but I do believe he is a core part to building the team for the next decade. And to me, when you look at most really good NBA teams, they all have some type of semblance of the same thing. They have an elite point guard that puts pressure on you. Either he puts pressure on you as Steph Curry does, because as soon as Steph crosses the timeline, he's within range. Steph's also a great ball handler. Steph's a good passer. Or you could have, a guy like Ja Morant, a guy that is an outstanding passer, doesn't have the shooting prowess of Steph Curry, but I don't know if Steph Curry he certainly doesn't have the physical prowess of Ja Morant, and I'm not certain that Steph even has the ability. I don't think Steph has the ability to get into the paint on just ball handling like Ja does. So you've got your point guard, you've got your power forward, your center, or whatever, your positionless big, and then now, to me, the other part that you need is the Klay Thompson, if you will, the perimeter shooter. Well, you've got two of the three elements that you need, and I think the point guard is the hardest position to find in that. And so if you have the opportunity to take Morant, while I think Barrett could be the perimeter guy that we're talking about, I just think it's way harder to find the point guard. So I would inevitably default to that. But the other thing that surprised me is the Grizzlies basically have come out and said, Ja Morant is their guy. And I just don't know why you have to say that unless you're trying to create some value for the number 2 pick. But Neil, no one trades out of the top 5.
No, I mean, I saw there was some talk about the Grizzlies trying to get the number 4 pick in a Conley deal. I just can't imagine that anyone's going to give up a pick of that value for a point guard in his 30s.
I guess if you get I do think the one wild card in this draft is Darius Garland. And I do think if Darius Garland had not gotten hurt, I do think Garland would have been the guy that we'd be talking about like Morant, because Garland, unlike Morant, does have like unbelievable range as a shooter. And he's a remarkably gifted athlete as well. The problem is he's now got an injury history at 18 years old or 19 years old.
A couple minutes left with you, Jeffrey. The NHL playoffs going on 1-1 between the Bruins and the Blues. See this about this guy? He bets $400 to win $100,000 if the Blues win the Stanley Cup. He's a moron, right? He didn't hedge.
Well, not only did he not hedge, I believe someone offered him
like 45 grand.
Yeah, I think it was like 40 something grand. And obviously what the person did that's going to offer 40 grand for the ticket is they'll hedge with the amount, that Boston, you basically just put Boston so you don't lose any money. Yeah. You'd bet Boston to win the series, how much ever money you got to do just to get the 40 grand back. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess if every gambler likes to say that hedging's for sissies, and that's not gambling. Every gambler I know that's ever been in this position has hedged. Every single one of them. So, like, there's no honor amongst thieves, dude. Like,
we are glorifying gambling morons, though, between the guy that bet on Tiger with his life savings or whatever it was, or being in debt, because betting on one person in any golf tournament is moronic. And then,
turns out that guy was a felon. Who could have ever imagined that?
Oh, he was a felon too?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I heard that he sold part of his Amazon stock or something. Apparently he had Amazon stock. But now this.
Oh, no, hold on. We're not here to cast stones about bad stock decisions, because as we've discussed time and time again, if you would have asked me in 2010, you would have presented the business plan for Snapchat and the business plan for Twitter, I would have taken every cent I own and put it in Twitter. Like, we're not here to cast stones on poor stock decisions.
How much chance you giving the Raptors NBA Finals?
All right, Neil, I want your opinion. I've talked myself into the Raptors, and I've talked myself into taking. So if the Raptors win in 6, it's plus 900, and if the Raptors win in 7, it's plus 900. Now, some would say that's a sucker bet because Game 6 would obviously be an Oracle, meaning that the Raptors would have to wrap it up in Oracle. But I have that wrong. Plus 900, Raptors win in 6, plus 450 if they win in 7. I don't know. I've just talked myself into the Raptors bench is way deeper than the Warriors bench. And it's not just that it's deeper. It's that the Warriors bench, because they had 4 guys on such expensive contracts, their bench is G League adjacent. Maybe a G League super team.
Yeah, it's bad.
And Kawhi right now is, and I'm not taking anything away from what the Warriors did against the Blazers, but the Blazers, like that Western Conference Finals, sorry, Grizzlies fans, that's on par with the Grizzlies' Western Conference Finals appearance in 2013. It should kind of have an asterisk. It wasn't like they beat the stalwarts in the West to get there. Like, they happened to have the right draw and the right break.
Yeah, and then Lillard got hurt.
Yes. And
if Lillard had that injury, they wouldn't have beaten the Thunder.
Correct. And if Paul George and Russell Westbrook weren't playing through injuries, that series might have looked differently as well. So I just think the Raptors are better, like 1 through 8. And I do understand that, if you're putting everyone on the board, I don't know who goes first in your opinion, Steph or Kawhi.
Kawhi's the best two-way player in the game.
Okay, then Steph goes 2.
Yeah, and then Clay would. I mean, assuming KD's not involved.
Correct. That's the other thing.
Clay
I don't
goes
buy.
3.
I don't buy for a second that Durant is like. I'm more and more convinced that Durant tore his Achilles by the day.
I'll tell you this: if he shows up and plays in this series, I'll give him credit for the acting job of when he was walking to the plane. Because when that guy was walking to the plane, he had that was a significant limp. That if he's able to pull that off, acting consistently, good for him. I mean, he's got a career after basketball in some sort of physical acting or something, because he looked hurt to me. I can't imagine that guy. And if he's on the floor, Kawhi's going to lock in on him. If he's not healthy, you can't help them. So, but the third guy that you would take in a playoff series because of his history is Clay.
Clay, and then Draymond probably goes 4th.
I don't know. That's where I like Gasol, and I like Van Vliet, and I like Kyle Lowry. I know everybody picks on Kyle Lowry. I like Kyle Lowry.
He's been very good this series. I mean, I'm sorry, this entire playoffs.
Yeah,
He's been very good.
I like him.
He had a 2-game stretch where he wasn't great, but consistently, if you are looking at how he has played for the course of the playoffs, he's played very well.
For a first-year coach with a first-year player in terms of in their organization, referring to Kawhi, Nick Nurse has done a great job getting those guys to play into their roles. He incorporated Gasol at the deadline incredibly well. He's gotten Serge Ibaka to play within himself.
I think Siakam's played well.
Siakam's a tremendous player. Danny Green's a very good defender. That's what they do well. They will really defend you. Van Vliet's a good defender. I mean, kind of everybody on their team really defends well, and then I don't think people give enough credit to how much of a shutdown defender Kawhi Leonard is. And
it's almost like he's
defender.
On a mission. It's almost like he's on a mission right now to remind everybody, I'm still really freaking good.
He got pissed off when people accused him of tanking last year. He did. I mean, and look, who knows what really happened, but he got his feelings hurt in San Antonio, and Toronto has. I mean, he's one of those guys that even though he doesn't say anything, he apparently is a fairly sensitive guy, and Toronto has embraced him in a way that I think he's going to stay there. And
I mean, they're the betting favorites right now, according to Bet Online.
Yeah, when the season started, I think he was going to go to the Clippers. I think he had made up his mind to go to the Clippers. In much the same way that I think Paul George had made up his mind to go to the Lakers. And then sometimes you play in these markets where it's not insane. It's one of the reasons that I think if Memphis would ever do it right, players would really love playing there. But he's loved in Toronto. I mean, he's beloved. I mean, they'll absolutely embrace him for as long as he'll stay there, and he's a great player when he's healthy. It's the other thing about this team. They've got guys that have played in the finals before. There's not going to be this intimidation factor with the big stage. I mean, it's been 7 years, but Serge Ibaka played in the finals. Kawhi Leonard's won a title. Danny Green's won a title. Mark Gasol's played in a Western Conference Finals before. So, I mean, he's not been to the finals, but he's been close.
He played in like a quarter or a game and a half.
I mean, yeah, they've been close. They've got a bunch of guys who've done it. I think it's going to be a hell of a series. I really do, and it's hard to win in Toronto. But those Warriors guys, man, when they play together the way that they did in that Western Conference Finals and move the ball and all of that stuff.
I think the biggest problem that I have is I don't think they can do what they did against Portland, which is basically in 3 straight games not show up for basically 3/4 of that game and then just turn it on. I don't think you can do that against. I think Toronto is too good to do that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they will, but at a certain point, like, I do think the lack of talent beyond, the 3 guys plus Iguodala, I guess, and however you feel about Sean Livingston, but I just think that's going to catch up to him.
Well, if this were Raptors Blazers, everyone would say Raptors in 5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is Toronto would wipe the floor with Portland in much the same way that the Warriors did.
And the Raptors have now beaten the Sixers and have now beaten Milwaukee. And we're now seeing with the gift of hindsight that, hey, man, the Sixers were a pretty good team, and we know Milwaukee was a good team. So I just feel like they're more battle-tested right now.
Golden State's problem with not having Durant is it lets them put Kawhi
on Curry.
And it lets them put Kawhi on Curry, or Clay. But it lets Kawhi take somebody out. And if he can take Giannis out of a series, he can take Klay Thompson out of a series.
Completely agree.
Appreciate it, bud. Have a good day.
All right, guys.
Thanks to Kendall and Jeffrey and everybody listening on this Thursday. Again, another podcast tomorrow, and then we will have more coverage also at rebelgrove.com heading into tomorrow for Ole Miss and Jacksonville State, 7 o'clock for that one tomorrow night after Illinois and Clemson, as we talked about earlier in the show. Good temperatures, good weather, and plenty of content throughout the weekend as well. Anything else? Good.
Just a couple of things to remind you of if you're coming in this weekend. If you live in Oxford, don't forget to get in touch with the people at Scoopers Pet Waste Removal. Everyone loves their pets. No one loves stepping in their pets' stuff. So Scoopers will go into your backyard, your apartment complex, your condominium. They'll pick up what no one really wants to pick up. They'll do it for $10 a cleaning. They'll clean up your yard. They'll do it on your schedule, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or a one-time service. No contracts required. You can cancel at any time. If you have multiple dogs, it's just $2 for each additional dog. So if you own a home, a condo, or an apartment complex in Oxford, and you'd like to deal with a lot less crap, call Scoopers at 662-506-2754, or simply send them an email, scoopers.oxfordpetwaste@gmail.com, to get your cleanings scheduled today. And you're going to be passing through Oxford, probably going to be thinking about football season a little bit. Get in touch with 7 South Tailgating. You can go ahead and get all of your tailgating needs taken care of right here before the football season even arrives, and you can start planning on your tailgates for September and beyond. 7 South offers packages for any budget, any party size, any number of games needed, whether you're just coming up for one game or you're coming to all 7 or something in between. Whatever it is, if you use your own personal gear, they'll store it, they'll maintain it, they'll clean it, they'll repair it for you. If you want to use their gear, they offer many colors, types, and sizes to choose from. Call or go online today For a detailed quote customized to your specific needs, it's 662-321-1682, or you can send them you can go to their website, 7southtailgating.com.
So back more on the site at Rebel Grove, and then back with another podcast tomorrow as well. We'll talk to you then.